Welcome to another Metaverse Summit Roadshow. So today we are really happy to have Asa with us, talking about especially virtual production and the link between virtual production, computing, and Metaverse. So welcome, Asa.
Thank
And
you very much.
yes, could you tell us more about yourself, about what you created, what kind of projects, and what is the most exciting thing for you in the past year of 2021 and in the upcoming year of 2022?
Okay, excellent. So let's start off with who I am and where I come from. So yes, it's Asa Bailey, and I am I'm a virtual production director. I work with studios and with producers and with other directors and cinematographers and VFX supervisors, and I work with these sort of heads of department to implement and advise and bring virtual production methodologies to the set. So that's where I started out as a director myself, and I started to develop real-time VFX for my own storytelling way back, and it began to grow. And I thought I was just doing something in my own way, but it then grew much bigger than me. And but being one of the first people to have been developing these solutions, I've found myself in quite high demand. So yeah, there we go. That's kind of what I do. In the past, projects wise, well, we started our company On Set Facilities. That's my production company, and that started in 2016. We started out doing a very low budget feature film. We went from doing that low budget feature film to then shooting very high grade remote productions where we were bringing together crews in Los Angeles, Hong Kong, and we started this very much sort of global working with the production company, and that again was the precursor to virtual production. So starting in 2016, by 2020 we had become known as the sort of the we weren't the first doing virtual production in it depends how you want to define it, I suppose, because obviously Avatar has been using beautiful virtual production tools for a long time, since 2009. So it's not, but we were one of the first. We were we were the nucleus of what's happened. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely you are kind of the pioneer. So did you see the trend coming up this year, that each year is there like a leapfrog difference, or
Yeah,
is
there is.
it
Yeah.
micro innovation each year? Can you like walk us through till today?
So the innovations, I think, started when you look at virtual production, and if we consider that at the moment, for this conversation, if we consider virtual production to be focused on creating content using digital tools to do the work, to aid us to do it. If we're thinking about it in that sense, then I have to go back to Avatar. I have to go back to those early days where Jim and the guys and everybody that was doing all of those fabulous data collected, and so they were collecting data and then taking that data and putting it into animation and post and everything else, but the data capture. So that's where it started by turning shoots into more of a data capture sort of session. And really, when we started, we couldn't find the computers, we couldn't find the right computers. All we could do was buy a Dell or a HP or or we could build a really big gaming rig. And when we so there was no computing power that was sort of specially designed for the purposes of low latency and all of this real time activity that we were doing on set, because that's what it is. It's real-time data collection. You've got real-time interaction on the set, motion capture, bodies moving, you've got cameras moving, you've got now LED involved, and you've got and really what's happening is this is all real-time live data. And we were having so much problem with lag and with networks and with everything else, and we just had to start. And that's why we started building then the computers that Godbox and the computer platforms that we built for the studios. So the computing started, that gave us the platform. And as soon as we'd got the computing platform, we could then start to look at what software's out there. What can we run on these computers? And so we started to bring in, obviously we were working with Unreal Engine. We then started working with Unity. We also was working with some really specialist sort of at the time softwares like Zero Density. I'll give those guys a shout out, because from a chroma keys perspective, what they were doing was they were the best, probably still are. But they're very specific, and they were also very specific in a broadcast environment as well. They were for the news. They were for the that sort of the broadcast weather and the shows of sports. And so what we did was we just went taking everything from everywhere. And there was like the guys at Brainstorm. They're another 3D sort of virtual studio software. But what we soon found is that we didn't need a lot of the features and a little of the things that they were doing. As filmmakers, we like to keep it simple. We want to keep it slick, and we like to keep on time. And we like, so it's all about these critical sort of like the things. And I think filmmaking was very different to doing a show. Like the news sections or the weather channels or the sports, commentary shows and things like that. It's very different work environment, different people. So, but again, the evolution of virtual production has come through this stages that I'm taking you through. So the broadcast, we all went into broadcast, we took out what we could, we took it on set, we broke it, we fixed it. We just, that's how filmmakers work. And we also we found that we started binding the game engines, which then gave us the ability to use like the real-time chroma key with fully augmented virtual worlds that we could build. So we started then projecting the image of a human or an actor or actress into a virtual world in real time. And quite frankly, in the first instance, it's not easy. It was very difficult. The chroma, to keep it crisp as a nuke, you can't get it as good as a 32-bit nuke pipeline. It wasn't there. You were working in 10-bit. You'd got loads of problems technically, but it was okay. It was all right. And we found that for pre-visualization, it was started to bring a really interesting tool set to the stage, so that the DOP and the director and the actors and production designers, everybody could start to see, what the vision was and how it was coming. So virtual production from our perspective went through a phase of real-time compositing first. Then brings us up to like 2019, I think, or 18, where Unreal Engine Epic, sorry, launched the motorbike as the motorbike demo, where what's this? LED. It was like that. This is where LED kind of stepped out of the shadows, and was put on a stage, and distributed by Unreal, and really got the imagination of everyone. And I think it got everybody's imagination and captured everybody because they could see it so clearly in front of them. And when they looked through the camera, It was like magic. It was like, so the LED then came, and that for us was a surprise. And also when we first saw it, we went, well, why do we want to go back to one plane? What's this about then? How does this going to work for us? Because we were into multi-layer compositing in real time. Why would I now want to go back to one singular frame with like just the image and the, you know, the actor and a LED stage behind them? Why would we want to go backwards on 60 years of VFX brilliance? And we're still questioning that. That's part of the question, is how can we pull forward, you know, pull into this how can we combine the two, where we combine VFX and the skills and the pipelines that we have there into what is essentially quite a single camera viewpoint on a stage that's looking at cast, props, LED. And this is, and now that's where we're at. And the future of this is now we start to bring in depth sense. We start to bring in things that can kind of AI, I suppose AI is playing a part in what we're doing, and that to look at extracting the foreground, the back, the middle ground, and the background of even an LED singular shot, so that we can bring in you know, more, I'll call them traditional VFX, you know, established VFX techniques into the real time and into virtual production. And that's kind of where we're at today.
Yeah, thank you for walking us through all these innovations of all those years. And for maybe people who are not that familiar with virtual production, and could you like explain more why is this so revolutionary to have this real-time production, or let's say why the pre-visualization is so important? What's the difference between the current, let's say, time-consuming procedure in comparison with like traditional filmmaking procedure?
I'm a filmmaker, so I'm not the best at budgets. Okay, I like spending money. That's my. I spend money to tell stories, to make movies, to do what I do. So I'm not the best person to be saying like, oh, this will be the saving financially. I can tell you what it does creatively. I can tell you how it frees us as a crew. And that's immense. The atmosphere on a virtual production set is, you know, if obviously people's important here, and sets can be very different with their attitudes, but in general, virtual production stages are very happy places.
In comparison with like traditional,
it's traditional ones, yes.
like
The very, you know, very, very, and what we find is that because more people can feel involved and can feel like they're not so isolated into that there's less of a separated hierarchy. The hierarchy is still there. It needs to be there. It keeps order, keeps things moving, but the hierarchy is somehow more integrated. So because you're moving around, you're different. The technology brings us as humans together to work together to make it work. So there's one sort of benefit. I think the ability to start making your movie as soon as you have the idea and the title in your mind is a good way about looking at it. You don't have to wait to raise you know, millions and millions of pounds to start making your movie. You can because you can, if it's the story or your show or whatever it may be. The point is that you can have the you know, if you've got the script, if you've got you can jump into an engine and you can start to bash out the pre-visualizations as to how it will be. That is virtual production as well. because you are virtually expressing and experimenting and positioning and creating with what you're doing. So the pre-production part can start as soon as you can afford for, either in the big cases, I work on, very big shows, and that they have, essentially a small army that they will put towards these situations. But that doesn't mean that an independent person as well can't start to visualize and create. The only thing they've got to do is learn how to use the technologies, the engines, or find somebody that can sit with them to do it.
Yeah, the democratization of
Yes,
the assets and all the game engines, tutorials are really make
amazing.
the filmmaking, like this kind of like a real-time filmmaking, more accessible for uh, normal people, not like a huge Hollywood names, but normal people can also create a lot of very innovative and creative short film. We saw them in YouTube, and Unreal Engine are pushing a lot of the creators in the highlight as well. So that's definitely a fascinating
There
thing to see.
there is a big need for more content. There is. It's it's not it's like a vacuum at the moment. It's sucking content into it. People want to sit and consume content. Um, and it really is a question of how we scale that. How do we scale the creative process? How do we get more filmmakers? How do we bring in to the ecosystem, the production ecosystem that exists? How can we scale that ecosystem? Um, I mean, that's big. That is a big challenge for large companies in this space. That's not a big problem if you want to make a small movie, but these are the problems for the larger organizations that need to create content. So it's in their interest that we enable the world to be able to make better content at a consistent quality. That's the key, because we want to give everybody the sort of opportunity to create,
Mhm.
but it still has to be good.
Yeah, the quality is king, right?
Well, it has to be, yeah.
So when we are saying how to make like this high quality content and to encourage maybe new filmmakers, first thing, of course, maybe let them learn Unreal and Unity and all those tools. Also, I saw also on your post on LinkedIn, um, Omniverse is coming
Omniverse, indeed.
free by NVIDIA for everybody.
Yes.
So what do you think of those open source, let's say, platforms who are providing all the tutorials for the content creators? And like, if I am a newcomer, if I want to make a film, what's the best way to start? And also another question around NVIDIA is like, you do also need a high uh, their computing power to be able to access Omniverse, right? Is it a short board, a barrier, or do you think there will be solutions, or it's like innovating itself right now?
Okay, so I'll take that as the two questions. I'll go back to the first one of which engine is which. What should I choose? How do I start? I think you have to know, um, engines are not easy to learn. They say they are, but they're not. Not for somebody who's never learned. If you know a 3D application, if you've worked in Blender, if you are that sort of person that can learn an application, yes, they are easy for those types of people. So there is a barrier of just being, what type of person are you? Are you the type of person that wants to learn an engine, or are you the type of person that wants to know about the engines and find somebody to do it for you? But let's look at the engines and how it currently sort of stacks up. Now, the 3D game engines, as they're started out in life, but primarily the two is Unity and Unreal Engine. and at this moment in time, they are fairly fairly connected in how they are. They're doing the similar type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a sort of race to provide these features.
Mm-hmm.
All but the features are somewhat similar to each other, as from what I can see. From I work in both of them. All the tools are somewhat similar. There are some distinct little pieces that are different, obviously, but the tools are the same. What I find different is their usability. How easy are they to use? Their stability. How stable are they on set? And this is where, and also the rendering engines themselves. How do they render? And there is a slight difference in look between these things. And I think that then comes down to being a creative choice of which one do you prefer, which is like you're choosing an Arri or choosing a Red. It becomes a little bit like that with the engines at that level with those two. Then we start to look at Omniverse, and Omniverse is a little different. Omniverse has got a different outlook on how they want to NVIDIA, have a different outlook on how they want to sort of build this interconnected, collaborative, like real-time visualization space. And in film and in the media side of it, we're exploring that with NVIDIA at the moment, of how it can be utilized, how Omniverse is going to fit into the media and entertainment space, because it fits Omniverse has a much wider and more immediately wider ambition in regards to its engineering, medical, M&E space. It's a much more shall we say, broader brushstroke with Omniverse. So which one do you choose? Well, all three are great for me. Because
Depending on the style and use case, maybe.
For me, yeah, exactly. Because for me, it's like I came from a cinematography background, and for me, I can only put them as sort of, they're like different cameras from my perspective, at least. And then yes, they have there's different use cases for them. So Unreal looks sexy. Unreal is the leader of the we're the shiny one.
Yeah, Unreal looks real, actually.
Yeah. And Unity, though, I've got to say, have a slightly more long game approach to the space. And when you look at the scale as well, Unity outscales Unreal quite dramatically, and in different areas as well. So from a technology, how powerful are the companies to be able to provide the tools? Both are very powerful. Both will be able to deliver the tools that we're going to need. So it's, I think that it's not a bad shout to learn those three engines within a business. You need to know about them. You need to know why we would use them. And I can't really say any more than that, apart from go find out, and explore those three main engines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for other tips for like the upcoming content creators, hopefully high quality content creators. And I also want to mention a question around interoperability, because when we're talking about metaverse, a lot of people would naturally think about more interactive user generated content, let's say Roblox, Decentraland. But for me personally, I think virtual production is a huge chunk of it, meaning that all those creativity, all those IPs, all those stories and high quality content are part of kind of the higher quality part of the metaverse.
Well, that's it, isn't it? The metaverse. I suppose we should talk about the metaverse as we're here. This is metaverse sort of subject land. So yes, that The how I see it is the metaverse is a thing. It's happening. It is coming. It's just in this sort of, in the sort of shape that nobody can really put their finger on at the moment. And it possibly might even stay that way, which will be quite interesting. And maybe it should stay a little bit vague. But really though, it is a place, if you like, it's the other world. It's the virtual world. Now, it doesn't surprise me that the first people that want to get into this virtual world are the storytellers. They're the ones that are going, oh, I can tell a story in a new space, in a new way. I'm there. That, and really we've got to get the stories and the games stories, same thing. We've got to get those things into the metaverse to draw the rest of the people into it, and to draw people who don't want to make, people who want to consume. They need to come in and just consume these things. And I think that's how the metaverse will sort of start to sort of shape in its entertainment way of like people. People will choose to be on a platform that could be, Meta's Horizons, or it could be, one of the independent platforms that are trying to, creating their own meta site, as I call them, because that's kind of what they are, isn't it? They're like a meta site, if you like, because I'm an old school web guy. So they're going with that, like, and people are starting to look at meta shops. They're like, okay, how can we build, there's this thing went round about Walmart this week, like, oh, but that was designed in 2017. So it's not new. It's the idea of this virtual world. So people are going to be coming into those spaces. Now, what we have to do is we have to look at how the content is interoperable, between these worlds, these meta sites, meta stores, meta whatever. How can something that we create on the virtual production stage be, used across these multiple ways? Now, there are standards that we need to find to do that. Now, if anybody hasn't heard of the USD standard, which is the unique scene description standard, which explains basically, if anybody has any idea technically of like what XML is to the internet, where XML tells your web browser what to display and how to do it and where to position things, the USD file is essentially the same in a conceptual manner, where it's telling the renderer or the game engine where things go, what color they are, what material they have on them, where they move, and everything else. So it's a way that, and this USD file was developed by some very clever people at Pixar many years ago. They made it open source, so they kind of gave it away to everybody. And now we can start to look at that, and it could be one of that company's greatest legacies if it becomes a good standard. So Omniverse uses USD as its base platform, which is what's fantastic, because USD is interoperable. So if I design something in Omniverse, if I work in Omniverse, I'm working already with an interoperable file format. Now, if I'm working in one of the other engines, they may be able to export USD, which they can, but they seem to do it differently. They seem to, the way they compile from their engines to USD seems to be different. So Omniverse works natively on USD file stacks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sorry, I've got down a little technical hole there, but it's important to sort of, what the differences between these systems is not apparent unless you understand some of these technical issues. So the interoperability between these things is starting to appear with the use of USD and MDL textures. Just two things that I can put forward as a kind of interoperable part of the creative assets and the whatever we're looking at. And also then, if you wanted to, I think there is a future with these formats somewhere that is connected with blockchain, where you've got USD assets like a dress or some sort of, you know, item of clothing, and somehow that can then be yours. It could be, I said this thing the other day, where maybe there's a little like ghosted icon you can roll over on somebody's dress, and it'll list up the meta, you know, the blockchain's entry for it, and it'll tell you who owns it, it'll tell you who made it, it'll tell you how rare they are, and it'll tell you how much it's probably worth. And that's the kind of thing that people want the metaverse to be. You know, this, and I think Unity and Facebook, sorry, Meta, Unity and Meta have just enabled Unity developers to work with and create with the Meta avatar system. So what that means is that anybody at the moment that's working with Unity can integrate with Meta's avatar system. Now that's everyone on Meta. So, and that's a lot of people. So when you build a game using this, and so that's a nice indication of how the companies are starting to, you know, work together. And then it'll be a question of, well, okay, that's that's fine for Meta and Unity. What about, you know, Selenium Space, or what about one of these other guys, you know, that want to do it? This is why USD is important, the blockchain's important.
Yeah.
All of this.
There's gonna be a battle royal kind of between
It's going to be fun, isn't it?
Garden and the newcomers. Anyways, the win of the user's attention. People will spend time on it and building things on it. That's the most important criteria, and decides who owns the future, right? So what you shared are really fascinating and very useful also for like
I hope so.
who definitely who like don't understand how the different worlds can, how to create a thing that is interoperable, an IP, a story, for example. And also maybe mentioning a recent event, because we are now the 7th of January, and the end of December, actually, Meta hosted a couple of virtual concerts in VR, but kind of with a flat 180-degree.
Oh, I've been in there. I'm in there.
You were there?
We know all of these. Yes, absolutely. So I'm aware of the. I've seen it.
Yeah. So when I saw this news, I was instantly thinking about how can our linear production, let's say, be compatible with like people's expectations of, you know, I mean, the VR headset, I want maybe a more immersive experience and more interactivity. Maybe people wouldn't just want to watch a 180-degree
Of course they
view
won't.
or
No, of
concert
course.
on. So how do you think can play out the future of virtual production? Is it gonna still produce content for people who just
It's
wanna sit there?
virtual production is a one-to-many operation. So it's a one production to many windows of exposition. So you want to, the way to think about it is the virtual production phase, that process that you go through. If done in the holistic sense, you would think, right, we're making the film, we're making the movie. Sorry, we're making the film and the movie, and then we're making the game as well at the same time, or we're going to capture assets for the game at the same time. And well, when I say game, basically I mean 3D. You know, the kind of the digital,
A
you know,
virtual world.
experience, the virtual world again. Yes. So you know, when we're collecting motion capture data on set, it's stored, and that is then enabled to be able to be used by the production to be able to take that same motion capture data and to utilize it straight into the game or the virtual world. So you know, that's part of it. I'm very interested in the user experience side of it. that's my special area. And I find that people want to watch. There are times when people want to sit back and watch. And I'm not sure we're there yet. I think we've got a long. I think we're a bit of a way out of the fully immersed all the time life. I think we're still a bit of a way out from that. Um, what we are at this moment in time is a kind of blending where, you might watch a show on Netflix on your mobile, on the way home, commuting. You will then watch Netflix on the laptop on the end of your bed, or you might be watching it there's many sort of like human aspects to where you are, what you want to do, how you consume it. And so 2D content is not going away. Even in the metaverse, films will just be shown in the metaverse. And you may be sitting there. I mean, if you go to big screen or you go to any of these sort of cinema type sort of experiences that are currently out there, I mean, I find they're fantastic. You sit there watching the Star Trek or something, and you can have a chat with somebody who's sitting next to you. I think it's all of that. So the content side of it, of this metaverse space, there's the 3D assets. They need to be interoperable. You need to be able to take your if you've got an NFT t-shirt that is unique, it's yours. I want to wear it everywhere. That's one problem that needs and that's kind of part of that needs sorting out. The experiences inside the metaverse are social experiences, firstly and primarily. Lobbies and spaces and workspaces comes into it then. And what are we going to do together? Well, should we make something? Yeah, why not? What tools are we going to use? And so there's creation in the metaverse. There's all of that side of it. The exploitation, as I say, of the content itself, of the IPs, is not, I don't think that far different from what we have today. I think it is that it's more open and interoperable would be nice. But you will
Yeah.
just go in and play it in a different way, maybe more immersed and maybe more socially.
Uh-huh. So yeah, talking about IP, that's an exciting topic. Like you mentioned user experience, but from an IP's point of view, we used to have Disney and Marvel, and we have Disneyland where, the kids and us can interact with Mickey Mouse, which is the kind of the mascot, right? So
Yeah.
when you were mentioning during like virtual production, which is only one step out of all the other possibility and steps, we can already stock some assets and directly use it in the virtual world, or let's say gaming experience, or whatever we call it. Can you tell us, like, what would you imagine the IPs can play out, the future IPs, the future Marvels? Maybe it's not top-down ones by big production house, but maybe from the grassroots, apes or the other kind of IP.
I firmly believe that the next, Spielberg come, ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, or these fantastic companies that have really changed culture and technology. I think they are small. I think they are out there. I think they have to be. It's like looking for life out in space. There's enough people. There are, and however clever we think we are, there's always somebody cleverer. And I think then they're out there. So it's really a question of getting the tools into their hands. And there are some very interesting, storytelling is an ancient art. It's a human activity. We're the only ones that do it. We're the only living being that tells stories. And I think that gives us a unique, gift and a unique sort of reason for being here, maybe, you know. It's kind of so the storytelling, and that's where the IP comes from. Stories turn into IP turns into industry, etc. It's kind of so, and there must be loads, there must be so many stories. It's just a question of, I think everybody thinks they've got a story, and I think it's a really hard my advice is not a singular activity. It's not a one person thing. Even though you may have the story, you may want to bring it out, you may want to make that, you know, you may want to make that game, you may want to make that movie, that meta experience, that meta store, that meta shop. But it's not an alone experience. It needs to be done with others, and I think that's where the metaverse is different. This, because one of the core concepts of it is the collaboration of us being able to talk like this as we are at the moment over digital time and space. We need to be able to create now. Me and you should be able to jump into something and start working together on something, and that's why I say that these new, the thing that will change cultures, like the stories of Star Wars and those sort of things that are such huge things, I think are going to will pop up all over the place.
Yeah, as you said, exactly, like the tools are only there to empower storytellers. Let's say in Web2, in social media, we have TikTok, and there are so many small, let's say, influencers and filmmakers who are using all these kind of simple VFX tools and green screens. And maybe in the metaverse, there will be like metaverse filmmakers, meaning that the camera is in the world because it's Unreal, maybe, or Unity, and people are just actors.
Yeah, exactly. What
Metaverse.
in time, I think we'll be actually making content in the metaverse. I think that's what I think we will be doing. That's kind of, at the moment, the LED screens that we use on the big stages are essentially windows into the metaverse, if you like. If the metaverse is the virtual world, then it is. You know, we're looking through and we're adding these big backgrounds. And really what we need to do, in the part I'm fascinated with, is injecting humans into the metaverse. I'm not a big fan of avatars. I think they're annoying. Because I'm me, you're you. Let's go. It's
Photorealistic meta-human.
Meta-humans, damn close. You've got to give it to meta-humans for their close, you know. But still, I don't know. There's something, I think, about volumetric capture which is really interesting. And AI as well. AI with the recreational, capabilities of AI, where we can train it and teach it to solve the problems that machines, that physical optical machines can't solve, because no matter how much I like it, if a camera's looking at my face, it can't see the back of my head. Can't change that. It's physics. But AI can. That's the difference. AI can take, as long as I can get a good representation of my persona captured, well, the rest can just be built by AI. So I think there's an interesting point when, as I say, cinematographer. Am I a virtual cinematographer? I don't know. Yeah, I am. I know, exactly. I think I don't like to, it's difficult. You don't want to tag words onto things, because you're a cinematographer, you're a cinematographer. Whether I do it outside or whether I do it inside the metaverse is a different thing. But I do think that I'm going to be shooting. I mean, I already shoot with virtual cameras in virtual worlds. I'm shooting virtual leaves. I'm shooting virtual grass, virtual deer and owls, so, but I'm not in it. When I'm doing that at the moment, I'm looking into the world through my camera, but I'm not in it. I'm still outside. I'm shooting it through an iPad, or I'm shooting it through, or a screen. I'm driving. I'm literally planning camera moves out on screens. And I think the difference of what we want is that we're all in it.
Yeah.
And we're all, that. So I think that's going to be cool.
In the end, it's always about people and the story and the interaction with the environment or between the people, right? So
Yeah.
virtually or like in real life.
Yeah.
Cinematographer is kind of a word for cinema. However, what else is it?
Well, we just shoot stuff. I don't know how to put it.
Right? It's all about human in the end. Yeah, that's
well,
a
well, it's become a very interesting process because I've always been a technical kind of guy. The technology has always been my like cutting edge, my competitive edge. And I think that it's an interesting thing where the technology is today. I'll go back to when we very first started talking, and I said that it's about data capture. And in a way, you're always shooting data. Now, it might be real data, like a real person, but the shooting now, is that a cinematographer still? I don't know. I don't know is the answer. I really
I
don't,
mean, when
because
we
I'm shooting real
yeah,
stuff. I'm shooting, unreal stuff. So I don't know, but I think it's about telling. It's about the telling the story, capturing. It's about capturing it for others, um, to be put out there. Yeah, it is fascinating. It's a very interesting time to be doing what we're doing. I can't believe it, to be honest.
well, it's very, very exciting era and time
Yeah.
to be in the sector as well. Especially like you have all the savoir also in the past, and I'm really sad that we only have 1 hour, but definitely please keep sharing, and we will looking forward to have you also in Metaverse Summit in July in 2022 in Paris. And
Oh, I love Paris. I so hope we've all got on top of this virus thing and we can just be free again. Would be amazing.
we will. We are free.
We're getting there.
Yeah. Uh, also, maybe one last question. What are your upcoming projects or expectations of 2022, and any exciting news and wishes to share?
Well, I have to be honest. When we came into Christmas, we had some big news on our computers side of things. We've now started to um, uh, we've taken Godbox computers to a retail level. So we're now building not just the HPC systems that go in the studios. We're now doing desktops for developers, which is great. And we're now putting our tools into the hands of creators outside of the studio, for freelancers at home. And part of the thing is that although we've all been moving, we've been moving compute to the cloud for like ages, it's starting to slightly turn the other way again, because there's a problem. There's a problem with what we're all doing, is we want to be doing it in real time. Now, real time requires distance to compute.
Mhm.
And although in a consumer manner, the Oculus Rift, the Oculus Quest is a fantastic device, really is, for what it is. And it gives us such an amazing sort of consumer level experience. A lot of people would be saying, why do I need any more than that? Well, you need more than that if you want to make things. If you want to create, you need more. You can never have enough power when it comes to creating stuff. So if you want to use these tools, the engines and everything, it does seem that you need the compute power pretty close to you. And as long as the experience that you are perceiving seems to be in real time, because that's the key, it seems to be in real time, then everything is good and the experience holds up, and we can all work together remotely and we can all do what we're doing. But that takes a new type of computing. So computing for us is becoming that's our foundation of our business. And now, though, we've been taking, so we build studios. Our business is involved in equipping and building studios around the world. We have possibly 5 at the moment that we're currently working on this week. And these are interesting because some of them are really big, like really big, and some of them are really small. And it's the small ones that get me excited.
Are we talking about virtual production studios or?
Yeah. Well, a bit, yes. Basically, creating digital content. Let's just call them that, because that's really what a virtual production studio is. And those spaces are now, some of them are huge and do cost upwards of $10 million, 15, 20, can go silly, can get really daft. Then there are some that are like, they're trying to build small studios with green screen, with least amount of equipment that they can get hold of. And the thing is, we want to enable all of them. So we're kind of like, we don't care whether you buy £500,000 worth of compute offers or £5,000 worth of compute offers. You get the same. We want you to do it. So that's interesting. The growth of the virtual production studios, where I think everybody is starting to think of the metaverse and how can entertainment work in that. But people are also though now coming to these virtual production studios to photograph their CEOs, to photogrammetry their employees. It's quite like remarkable what's going on. And then those employees are being digitized and put into various things. So it's kind of, there's a lot I can't tell you, to be honest. There's loads I can't tell you. I'm trying to think of what I can tell you.
Wow, that's exciting. Yeah, but it's all of a big picture, right? When we are talking about metaverse, we can't not mention like digital twins and also like remote work, and every single chunk and block of it. And of course, as you mentioned, like computing, it's such an important pillar of metaverse. But everybody is talking about all the fancy social stuff, but this is like kind of the core, right? You can't do real time interaction without this.
You
So
can't do the quality interaction. It's the quality. My first experience of virtual reality was in 1992. It was my first job ever. And it was, I did 1992. I was like 21, 22 years old. And we had this it was called Virtuality. And this Virtuality headset. Now, inside it, it was a green floor, a triangle tree, so like one poly tree, and about a 6 poly wolf that was coming towards you, and you could shoot it with a bow. But the amount of polys in that scene in 1992 was about 35. Okay, not 35 million as we have today. And that's where the problem is. So the compute that you need next to you kind of is you can choose, like you can get in quite cheap. If you go and look at for instance, the Omniverse minimum specification requirements, Google it. They're not that high. I mean, I could do with telling NVIDIA to pump them up a bit, but they are given so that anybody can get going. They're the minimum specification. Now, if you're working with 4 other people, one of you's in Maya, one of you's in another, Blender, and you're all and somebody is watching what's happening in the Omniverse through the viewer, that view is being rendered locally. The more GPU compute you have locally will increase the fidelity and the experience for you. And so, and likewise for the other people that are working with you as well. So if you all want a non-jittery, no lag, high quality, like 32-bit sort of visual rendering feeling to everything, you're not going to do that with a 256 gigabyte Oculus Quest headset.
Mm.
It needs so this is where the compute part of it is very important. Yeah. Thankfully for us, because we started building things.
Thankfully, yes, and looking forward to the big news announcements. You said in 2022 as well, to be like really having the studios create different contents.
Well, it's the work, it's the platforms we need now to bring. We need for us, it's the exciting part of the people that now want to work with us, and that is the you know, they bring with them scale, and so we're in a scaling process at the moment, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to it as well. Well, thank you for all the sharing. You're definitely the most techy, let's say, filmmaker and the most cinematographic geek. I would
Yep. Oh, I am. I'm the real deal photo
You're
geek.
the real deal. Yeah, thank you for sharing all the creative aspect and the tech aspects.
No problem at all.
So yeah, looking forward to having you here in Paris for Metaverse Summit and to also talk about others with VR, AR professionals, blockchain professionals, and
Love it. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's the interesting thing, because this metaverse is broken into various parts. You know, this is another thing I want to just quickly say, that everybody thinks that metaverse is all NFTs and all of this sort of stuff, and they get hooked onto these things, and they get infectious, and it's like you need to, you know, it's not just that. It's like it even comes down to pattern cutting for fabrics and clothes. You know, look at Marvelous Designer. You know, oh, there's so much to it. We've all got a lot to do. We're all going to be very busy.
Everybody needs to learn a lot of things from each other. That's
Yes,
why we're doing this Metaverse Summit, to talk, to learn, to educate,
absolutely.
to build something in the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the. Thank you for having me, and it's been lovely to talk to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Asa, and see you very soon.